Definition policy.
Okay.
She's not, there's county executive, she said that they're not.
All right. Everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Portsmouth High School or Portsmouth School Committee meeting at the Portsmouth High School, Tuesday, December 14th. Before we have the official call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a special treat here tonight. We have the high school doing the national anthem for us, so I guess we will stand for that.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Would you please remain standing as I call the meeting to order and we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, a wonderful way to open the meeting. Please let the record reflect that all school committee members are present. In case there's an emergency, we have evacuation doors to the back and to the side and meet over at the new gym. I just had two items on the chair's remarks tonight. This first one is really for the school committee members. You know, we do our legislative priorities at the end of January. So I'd ask people, I know it's the holidays, but think of, are there things that ought to be on our legislative priorities? We're going to have to address those at the first meeting in January. And also for the school administration, you know, if there's anything from your viewpoints that feel need to be legislative priorities. At the end of the month, we will be meeting with the town council to kick off the budget season, and that's when they also have the state legislators there, and so we will need to have our legislative priorities voted on and ready to be discussed. So the timeline's ramped up a little bit there. The second thing is the school committee vacancy process. Last night, the town council decided that they would post and ask for applications to fill the remainder of the term left absent by the passing of Alan Shears. They will collect those applications and then look to appoint that person. I believe it was January 10th meeting. I think it's what it was.
January 4th deadline, January 10th.
January 4th to get the applications in, and the 10th then for the appointment. So if there's anybody in the audience that's interested, we certainly encourage you to think about applying. And I know you could contact any one of the committee members here if you have any questions about what all it entails. Okay, so that concludes my chairperson's remarks. Moving on to subcommittee update, finance, Mr. Ferber.
So the finance subcommittee met a week ago. The finance subcommittee met a week and a half ago, I think it was. And basically it was just a kickoff meeting for the budget season. So we just discussed various assumptions and challenges that we have coming up. And among those assumptions are, of course, the impact of inflation as we consider the costs of various things. And that's about it. We just sort of reviewed some of the things that we believe are possibly subject to significant inflation issues. And that was it. So it's essentially just a kickoff meeting.
Great, thank you. Moving on to health and wellness, Ms. Kelly.
The Health and Wellness Subcommittee met last Thursday, and we got some updates from each of the schools. That's no significant information beyond the just the usual updates. And yeah, I think that sums it up.
Okay, thank you very much. Policy subcommittee, Ms. McDade.
We've met yesterday on the policy subcommittee. We had 4 policies that we discussed. The first 2 were policy on gifted and talented education. It's an old policy and the number 100. And the second one we discussed has to do with information technology equipment. It's the old policy 4355. In both cases, we were talking about revisions to be made to those policies and potentially incorporating them into other newer policies. And so those sort of went back to the drawing board and will come back to our committee before they come to the full committee. Then the last 2 policies we discussed were social networking and text messaging, which is incorporated into an appropriate use policy, which is policy IJNDC, and the part-time non-certified compensation policy, which is GDG. Both of those policies were approved and will come before the full committee in the next meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Now on to one of the favorite parts of the evening. We have some recognitions and a community presentation here. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Kenworthy to recognize the PHS Unified Volleyball Team state champions. So yay.
Dr. Sullivan. So we're going to hear later in the agenda an update on the full fall season. But we did have one state champion team from the season, and that is our unified volleyball team. So we wanted to recognize them. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Mr. Emerald, do you want to pass these out? I'll read the names, and then maybe the team can come up. And once we have, just wait till we have everyone. We'll take one full team photo. So tonight we offer our congratulations to Emnaris Gonzalez. Camilla Gonzalez. Owen Cameron. Olivia Durant. Patrick Kiley. Aiden Kurzic. Patricia Little. Thank you. Vincent Malisi. Ava Moore. Chase Mullins. Cyrus Pryor. Sydney Renfret. Josephine Robbins. Eden Sullivan. William Sullivan. And then our coaches from the high school staff, Assistant Coach Nathaniel Perry. And Coach Donna Ritchie.
Now we're going to have an official picture, but parents, you can feel free to stand up and take pictures too, right? Come on down and take a picture if you want. You get a nice centered photo there. Congratulations.
There we go.
2 rows or 1?
Can you get everybody? Maybe 2 rows.
We did 2 rows.
Go 2 rows.
Yeah.
Everybody in.
Remember, give him the finger.
I know.
Look at snow.
Can we seal the minutes? Can we seal? Oh, yes, okay. Yay! Well done, Coach. That's the second time I've been one, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the second time unified volleyball's taken state, right? Fourth? Wow, congratulations, it's a powerhouse. Well done, everybody.
And so what made it more impressive is that they were down 1-0 and came back, won the last 2 sets. So that was perseverance and a serious comeback. So it was a
Wow,
good game.
excellent, excellent job. Before I move on to recognitions, the clerk called it to my attention that we did not seal the minutes to the executive session. So we had an executive session prior to this meeting. There were no votes taken. Can I have a motion, please, to seal the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, 6-0. Thank you. Sorry about that slight diversion there. And so now I'd like to invite Mr. Craig Clark, who is the co-chair of the Budds Hill Fort Restoration Committee, to the podium. He's going to give a presentation on the work that they've been doing up there, and the slide should be up right behind us. Yeah. Could you please state your name and address for the record? Thank you. You can take your mask off when presenting.
As Craig Clark, 701 Park Ave, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm the Vice President of the Portsmouth Historical Society and the co-chair of the Budds Hill Fort Restoration Committee, and a proud graduate of Portsmouth High School. One of those old people, yeah. So in August 2020, the Historical Society held an event at at Butts Hill Fort, just to gain interest to see who was interested in helping restore the fort, bring it back to its former glory. And as a result of that, we decided we had enough interest to form a committee. We had very modest goals in 2021 to form a committee, to raise some initial funding and start the clearing process and start gaining awareness. And towards that end, we formed a committee of 11 members. We actually just accepted a high school student, Ken Gleason, onto our committee at our last meeting. She's a junior, I believe, at the high school. We've raised the 10,000. We've actually raised 10,000 of private donations, and we just raised another $13,000 in foundational grants for a website and for educational purposes. So we've done a lot of work in the past, 10 months actually. We've had numerous newspaper articles on what we're doing. The main reason that we're looking at what we want to happen here is really to raise awareness. As a graduate of the high school, back in 1983, Butts Hill was a place where you park, where you fight after school, or something was going on. And we really I didn't have any knowledge of it, to be honest with you. I learned more in the past year at the age of 56 about Butts Hill than I ever did throughout the high school. And one thing that's really amazing to me is that what we found is that this huge void in the knowledge of the siege of Newport and the Battle of Rhode Island, in general. Very few people are really truly educated on the importance of it. It was the first engagement where the French were involved in the Revolutionary War. As a student, you learn about the major signers of the Declaration of Independence, John Hancock. I was amazed to find that John Hancock was here. Everyone knows about Paul Revere and his ride. Paul Revere is here. Nathaniel Greene, he was a commander on the site. So, I'm kind of diverting from this, but this is really the focus of it, is that we have such pride here. After the election, I walk outside, home of the Patriots. Do the students really understand why we're called the Patriots? Where we're standing right now was a battle site. And it's encompassed of 400 preserved acres of National Historic Heritage in 1974. It was designated as a National Historic Landmark, Butts Hill, plus the surrounding area. So the vision for what we have for this, for Butts Hill Fort, it's the largest remaining Revolutionary War fort in Southern New England. I think it may be the last one, the largest in New England. And we should have the same kind of pride of the educational process that my nieces do in Concord, Mass, going to that battle site. It was really nothing. There were 17,000 combatants on Aquidneck Island during the Battle of Rhode Island. And it really is an amazing story. And the more people are educated, maybe they won't be 55 learning about it for the first time. So our real vision here for the fort is to, number one, gain pride in what we have here in the town and on the island. Most of you don't even, again, this past year, you can't put Newport into the perspective of what it meant to the colonies. It was the 5th largest city in America at the time. So taking of Newport was a huge impact. It was as important as New York City at that time. So, and we have to sort of put ourselves back into that context and gain the awareness for it. So way off my mark here, but most people don't know that at one point that was going to be a housing development. 1923, Dr. Roderick Terry preserved the property, saved it for perpetuity. It was given to the Newport Historical Society. They didn't do much with it. It was given to the state of Rhode Island, and then the town acquired it in 1968. And over time, it's just sort of gone down to repair. So, this is a picture from 1906. There's some really famous pictures. This is a LiDAR. This is what's most impressive. And you can see the outline of the fort in the middle picture there. It really is impressive when you go up there and you can see the embankments and how much effort was put into making those. Town residents were actually forced to work on that fort during the construction, 2 different construction periods. So conditions, we've done a lot of work so far. We had over 70 volunteers working on the fort. We had made some tremendous progress. Our main focus coming forward for 2022 is going to be a master plan, raising additional $50,000. increasing the educational process. We have a website now. We have funding for a website. We want to be a one-stop shop sort of for the Battle of Rhode Island, linking all to the different groups. There's Fort Barton over in Tiverton, Nathaniel Greenhouse, anyone connected to that actual battle, the actual Naval War Museum, significant impact over there. So how can we work together as a community, as a committee and a community is really, my vision would be to have a rite of passage for every student. I think about, my 10th grade Mr. Richards U.S. history class, sitting here talking. I really can't remember, to be honest with you, how much we spoke about the Battle of Rhode Island and the Siege of Newport. But wouldn't it be nice that every year the 10th grade U.S. history class is brought to Butts Hill Fort to learn about the battle. And from there, we can maybe walk down to the 1st Rhode Island Regiment Monument, or we can go to Quaker Hill, the top of Quaker Hill, and go to the Friends Meeting House where Revolutionary War soldiers were stationed there in the actual meeting house and talk about that. I've been going on night about this, but you can kind of get my enthusiasm at my late age to learn about the amazing history that we have underneath our own feet here.
Yeah.
And then again, that's the vision I want. I want people to know, or 5th graders, 6th graders, when they do learn about that, the context of learning about Paul Revere. Wow, he was in Portsmouth. Where's that? Why? What happened? How did he get there? We were just added to the Washington Rochambeau Trail. So as Washington went from Newport up through Providence and back down to New York, this was the beacon here. So we don't have any actual documents that he stopped at Butts Hill, but we'd be really surprised that he didn't kind of meander up here.
Yeah.
So that was the intention of meeting today, was just to sort of open a dialogue with the committee to talk about really what we're trying to do. 2026 is our 250th anniversary. And 2028 is the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Rhode Island. So we have the opportunity to be, that Butts Hill Fort could be a major focal point of that event.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than every homecoming, we have a cannon firing off from the top of this. That's an older map right there. That's a French map of the Battle of Rhode Island. And you can see Butts Hill Fort in the top. This is a rendering from 2008 when there was discussion of turning part of that into a museum at the bottom right. Our focus for hopefully this year, if we can get some funding, is to open up the Battle of Rhode Island Vista. So as people enter into the complex, they can see the fort again, the walls of the fort. And again, kids know that we're the Patriots and why we're the Patriots and where all these regiments were stationed at that given time. So sorry, I'm talking a little too fast, but I don't want to go through a slide presentation. So I'm again hoping that we can just start the discussion, how we can work together. We have a lot of educational initiatives in place. We want to be able to, we're looking at Butts Hill as being the destination for people who are interested to learn about the battle and just historical tourism, to show up there and venture off to the different locations on Aquidneck Island, and linking all these places together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm open for any discussion.
So thank you. Any questions from the committee before I make a comment? So I think it's very exciting. I think it's, we talk about creating outdoor classrooms at the elementary schools and it's kind of like there's a little outdoor lab right, in Portsmouth High School's lab. So
It really is. And, and there's been some vandalism up there over the years, and it's been, the more clearing we have, more visibility, the less that could happen. I think the educational process, maybe to think twice before throwing some trash there or doing something else, or whoever's doing it. So I just really want to create that culture that it's just going to be long sustaining, because 1976 there was a clearing, but then it just goes back down. So how can we long term keep that to where it needs to be?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The website that you have, it seems to me from reading this, I've been up there, I've seen the fort, I live close to it actually, but I also was on the board at Fort Adams for a number of years. But the association that you established seems to me it would be good to have a website where all of these sports might be represented on the website, perhaps with some little introduction as to their significance in
Absolutely.
the history, and then students and whoever can decide to visit some of these places and see for themselves. They have context. Once they've seen the website, they can put all of these sports into context.
That was the main reason why we started with that. So we started with the Portland Historical Society, and then this has taken on a life of its own. And the epiphany is that, okay, does Butts Hill Fort tell enough of the story to sustain it for the long term? And when you look at the whole context of the battle, it was the island wild world. It was Rhode Island at that point, correct? So how can we link everything together? So Fort Barton right now does not have a website, which is a sister city, the sister fort to Butts Hill. We have the Varnum Army. General Varnum was participating. Nathaniel Green Homestead. We have the Naval War College. We have the we have the First Rhode Island Regiment, the NAACP. There's so many stories. Each individual regiment that fought at that battle has reenactors in place throughout the world. We've talked to the French government. They're involved. They like to see this happen as well. This is the first time that they were here, French soldiers battling with us. So that's the main point of the website, is to bring everybody together, associate everyone together, get one unified approach.
And 2028 is a great deadline point
It is.
too, I mean, that gives you 7 years to really make it happen.
It does. There's a lot to do, and we don't have to do it all. It's gonna be a long process, but I think the website and having the QR code still venture out, the technology is there now that wasn't there in 1976, obviously. So I think that to gain anyone's interest in it and to be able to explore and see the different sites would be really fantastic.
And Craig,
Fort Adams has actually helped us out a considerable amount. We had 20 of their volunteers helping us in both areas.
I have your contact information. You're okay if I share it with the social
Absolutely.
studies department here,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
we'll definitely do that. We'll share the presentation.
Great, well, thank
We'd
you.
love to, whatever we can do. Again, the signage, if there's any students that want to get involved in developing some of the signage, we'll pay for it, obviously, but there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of collaborative, hands-on learning projects too.
There really is.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount. And we'll most likely we'll have archaeologists involved at some point. Love to get the school involved with that. They want to learn about it. This LiDAR technology and the mapping, that in itself is fantastic. The newer technology, we don't have to do a lot of surveying. Just use the drones and it maps it for you. It's really, really fascinating.
Great. Well,
So, thank you very much.
thank you for coming and sharing that with us. We really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you. Next up on the agenda, we have a lot on the agenda tonight, so I'm trying to keep things moving here a little bit, is public comment. Is there any public comment? I don't see anybody coming forward. Okay. Moving on to our PHS liaisons. Would you like to come on forward? Good evening and welcome.
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little short. Hi, my name's Amy Kerwin. I'm not Ruth McKinnon, she's our treasurer, but she was unable to make it today. I am the president of the executive board of the student council. And a lot has been going on at Portsmouth High School for the students the past month since we last met. I spoke at the last meeting saying that we were planning on doing a Covenant House sleep out. And it went very successfully. The Portsmouth community raised about $2,500 for homeless teens, which was matched by Cisco Systems. So we as a community attributed $5,000 to homeless teens, which is incredible. And we hope to continue this tradition of sleeping out for homeless teens in future years. We had some awesome chaperones, Mr. Emerald, Mr. Smith, Miss Unity, and Mr. Denard. So it was wonderful. And then as we continue to give back, we're participating in the Toys for Tots drive, as you saw walking into the lobby, and which has always been successful. We started it, I think, a couple of years ago, and it's such a wonderful emblem to our community. A couple other things that we've done to give back to our community. Oh, I'm Ashton Sullivan, by the way, I'm the vice president. So another thing that we've done to give back to the community is over the Thanksgiving break. I believe that I mentioned this at the last meeting, but we had a pie baking event where each class contributed 4 pies, 2 apples, and 2 pumpkin. Thank you. And they were given to families in need in our community. Along with each class assembled a basket of just holiday goods that you might want, like stuffing, canned goods. I know we put in candles and chocolate in ours, and those also got delivered to families in our community in need. And so then the last thing that we have that's currently going on is on Saturday, we're hosting a Santa's workshop at the high school, which is basically just the student council. What we're doing is we're inviting kindergartners to second graders to come to the high school and do some arts and crafts and fun things like that, so that their parents can go out and do get their gifts and wrap their gifts and all of that fun stuff. So it's kind of the high schoolers connecting to the elementary school students
Wonderful,
right now.
wonderful. Thank you. That's awesome. You guys are really in the holiday spirit. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the superintendent's update. Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First up, I have some personnel updates since our last school committee meeting. And since that time, we have welcomed as a teacher assistant paraprofessional at Melville School, Caitlin Powell, and a long-term sub-school psychologist, Nancy Horsey. I have a couple other changes I want to save to the end. We did accept a resignation of Madison Lane, art teacher at Melville, and Benjamin Ruda, RBT registered behavior technician at Melville as well, both for personal reasons. We have a few winter coach appointments to round out our winter coaching staffs. So at Portsmouth High School, we can officially welcome Emmett Stottlemyre as assistant boys and girls swim coach, Samara Gallian as assistant girls basketball coach, and Robert Balawa as a boys basketball volunteer coach. And at Portsmouth Middle School, Robert Mergado as head girls basketball coach, and Christina Rainey as assistant girls basketball coach. And tonight also, I have to report with regret, I've accepted the resignation of Ms. Pamela Storm, Director of Student Services at Portsmouth Middle School. So Mrs. Storm is a 17-year district employee, and she's been with us various roles as a teacher, did an administrative internship with us a few years ago, and has for the last several years been in an administrative position as the Director of Student Services at Portsmouth Middle School. So she did accept a position closer to home for personal and family reasons. And so we certainly wish her the best there. And for the duration of the school year, Mr. John Lally, who's a retired administrator, he's helped us out in a few times before. He's going to be filling in that role for the remainder of the year until we can decide what to do for next year. And moving on to district updates. So first up, we'll start with some COVID-19 updates. I do have to report that we have experienced an uptick in cases in the district, particularly at the elementary level since the Thanksgiving holiday break. So to date, we have had a total of 103 positive cases in the district. These include 32 cases at Portsmouth High School, 20 at Portsmouth Middle School, 26 at Melville, and 25 at Hathaway. So we are definitely trending a lot higher in the district, as I think we're starting to see throughout the state currently. And to put that into perspective, I went back and looked. And so for the same date last year, we had a total of 32 positive cases in the district. So we are right now in the district at numbers 3 times higher than that. So just diving a little deeper into the data around these cases, one of the other things that I could definitely report is that over 85% of our cases in the district this year have been among unvaccinated individuals. This reinforces the best advice we continue to hear from the Rhode Island Department of Health, which is to get vaccinated and boosted when eligible. Currently, we know that the COVID-19 vaccine is readily available to all Rhode Island residents ages 5 and older, and boosters are available to anyone currently over the age of 18 who is at least 6 months out from their last dose. Governor McKee continues to renew the executive order mandating masks indoors at all times for all K-12 schools. And so right now, the current executive order is in place through mid-January. Also, Governor McKee did call a press conference for 1:30 tomorrow afternoon, where he is expected to address what we have seen in rising case numbers as we are approaching the holiday break. After the new year, the Portsmouth School Department is planning, I can report this evening, to implement the test to stay option, which is now available to all Rhode Island school districts. I do have to clarify, however, that the Rhode Island version of this test to stay model is only for unvaccinated students in the grade range of pre-K through 6th grade. Now, in a superintendent's call with state officials last week, it was confirmed that there are no plans to expand this program beyond those grades, and that this option, even for those grades, the intention is to phase it out once the overall vaccination rate for those age groups increases beyond 50%. So we have been working to try to get our plans in motion for that. Right now, we're facing a few challenges, and one of which is definitely the number of cases that our nurses are dealing with. I think on a good day, our nurses are working beyond their capacity, and we have experienced a staffing shortage in that area as well, with some unintentional leaves. And like many areas that we're finding these days, it is a tough area to find substitutes for. But we are certainly doing everything we can. Everybody's working as hard as they can on a daily basis. If we, in implementing the test to stay option for those grades, to looking at our current staffing and logistical capacity, just to be as upfront as possible with everything, we would need to suspend asymptomatic testing for those grades. So it is something we will continue to explore, and I will have more to report out in January. Also, I can report this evening that 96% of all district staff, which includes over 300 individuals, have submitted proof of vaccination ahead of our December 1st deadline that we set in the district. And so currently 4% of our staff is participating in the weekly testing protocol that we set up. And I want to thank Mrs. Kim McGuire, our Director of Human Resources, who, with a lot of work behind the scenes that went into setting that system up and collecting the records and continuing with our testing program. The Equity Institute has completed the data collection phase of their equity analysis. And I want to thank all members of the PSD community who completed a survey or participated in a focus group or individual interview. The Equity Institute will now begin the process of analyzing the data and will have information to share with us at some point after the new year. In speaking to Mr. Piero this week, I think our intention would then be, when we receive that information, we will reconvene our equity subcommittee. And that has been on hold while we were process of the data collection phase of the Equity Institute. Our weather and emergency decision protocols have been communicated and are posted to our district website. We had previously discussed the option of having 1 to 2 traditional snow days if the school calendar warranted. And as a reminder, a traditional snow day would have no learning activities and would, however, necessitate the day needing to be made up at the end of the school year. A distance learning day is able to be counted as a school day and does not result in additional days added to the school calendar. Again, is kind of reviewing everything the way we are. One thing that I do need to bring to your attention is that with adjustments we made prior to the start of the school year, our last day of the 2021-22 school year now is scheduled for a Friday, which is June 17th. In addition, around the same time, Juneteenth was officially recognized as a federal holiday, and states have a few years to transition to formal recognition. June 19th this year, in 2022 would fall on a Sunday. So I would assume any Rhode Island recognition of this day would most likely occur on Monday, June 20th. Therefore, given that information, my recommendation would be that we utilize asynchronous distance learning for any weather or emergency days this school year. And as always, we could continue to review and make a determination on a yearly basis as those decisions come up. So if you would like me to put it on further for discussion at our next meeting, please let me know, but that would be my recommendation. We have had a lot of activity in each of our schools over the past few weeks, and just a few highlights. The PHS Drama Club put on a fantastic production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. At Portsmouth Middle School, this past weekend, they held a very festive winter wonderland. There are some great outdoor decorations. Hathaway recently had a holiday chorus concert. They did it virtually for the most part, and at Melville, As well, there are a lot of activities around the hour of code, as there were in all of our schools. At Millville, they held a school-wide virtual dance party. Wednesday of this week, we will have a district-wide early release day. All schools will dismiss 1 hour early while staff participates in professional learning activities for the remainder of the afternoon. And our holiday break this year will begin on Thursday, December 23rd, with schools reopening on Monday, January 3rd. I wanted to take the opportunity this evening to provide some updates on school safety and security. So this is a topic that is always at the forefront of district decision-making these days, and especially after events like those that recently occurred in Oxford, Michigan. So as a reminder, in the Portsmouth School Department, we have a school resource officer on duty at both our both our middle and high schools, and a district employed school safety officer in place at both of our elementary schools. We are fortunate that currently both of those individuals are retired police officers. We have a district safety committee made up of school and district personnel, as well as town safety representatives for police and fire. And that committee meets quarterly to review school safety and security topics. We follow threat assessment guidelines, which were issued by the Rhode Island Department of Education that all districts are expected to follow. These procedures are overseen by Dr. Caldwell, who in her capacity also oversees our district mental health staff, which play a critical role in those procedures. And over the past few years, we have transitioned to more collaboration with the Portsmouth Police Department. So Lieutenant Mark Mooney, who is on staff there at the police department, is a certified national safety expert for school safety. And he would then oversees and so collaborates with us on our efforts to prepare for incidents related to school violence. So again, I have gotten some questions. I'm sure you may have as well. I just wanted to provide and remind everyone of those updates. I'm pleased to announce this evening that the Portsmouth School Department has been selected as a recipient of a $67,000 grant from the Ann Buren Charitable Foundation. That foundation has been very generous to us over the past few years. So this particular grant award will be used to support the Portsmouth AG Innovation Farm, located at near Portsmouth Middle School. These funds will be used to purchase a multi-purpose shed, a tractor and tractor shed, and provide money for future programs and field trips for Portsmouth district students to be able to utilize the farm, not just at the middle school. So our grant application was written by Mrs. Margie Brennan, who we've recognized over the past few meetings for several other contributions and in consultation with Dr. Rivera. So thank you to both of them. As a reminder, our next school committee meeting is scheduled for January 18th, and that as of now is scheduled to take place at Town Hall. If there are any updates related to the upgrades in the chambers, I will certainly let you know. As Dr. Copeland mentioned, the joint Town Council School Committee budget kickoff meeting is scheduled for January 24th, and it will include in the beginning a meeting with our local legislative delegation. And so we have been asked, as Dr. Copeland mentioned, to make sure that we have any legislative priorities prepared in advance of that meeting. So for us, that would mean we would need to finalize those at the January 18th meeting. And finally, I will turn in my updates now things over to Mr. Tresvant, who is going to provide us with a recap of the fall athletic season.
School committee, to our staff and to our community. Very proud of what we accomplished this past fall season. It was a closer step back to normal as we approached, and we have a great picture up here of our unified volleyball team that participated with distinction this past fall, capturing a 4th state title. It was great to see them here this evening. This fall, we had between 400 and 500 students register between the middle school and the high school. It was a return to our normal numbers for our fall season. We had so many student athletes receive the distinction of all state, all division, all class, all academic, and receive sportsmanship awards. One of our great highlights, obviously, was our state championship. We also welcome back our crowd this in our outdoor events. So it's great to have our crowd, but in conjunction with our crowd, we continue to live stream many of our events. Much kudos goes to Steve Costa and Kevin Riley for putting together that program for us. So we are welcoming a much larger community back, not only people that were able to come to games, but to the wide world out there that the internet provides us. And also we had a return this year of our student athlete cares program, where our student athletes contributed over 250 hours of community service back to our community through a variety of projects. So doing well, not just on the field, not just in the classroom, but in the community as well. Breaking it down by teams here. Again, our unified volleyball team had 18 participants, finished with a record of 5-3 and capturing the state title. If you ever have a chance, and if you could only pick one sporting event to go to, I would strongly advocate going towards a unified event. These events where both teams are competing, fans, everybody is supportive. It is such a worthwhile event to see. Please, if you have the opportunity, take the time and go see the unified volleyball at the high school in the fall, and then unified basketball at the middle school level and the high school level in the spring season. So if you have the opportunity to go, please do go catch those events. For our football team, we had 67 students registered for that sport, competing at the highest level in Division I with a 4-2 record. Those 2 losses were amazingly close games. We had, again, athletes that received all division, all county, and all academic awards. They advanced all the way to Division I semifinals. I know Mr. Shearer is a big fan of our football team, and he always wanted to make sure that we stress that we compete against the best of the best year in and year out. I wanted to echo those sentiments from Mr. Shears to know that, again, it was another year of excellence for those young men and young women, because we had 3 female student athletes participate on our football team as well. Their community service project this year was they donated back to our youth football program. Every game, a contingent of them went to go support those younger students, younger youth in our community to help at their games in any way that they could, either with the game, concessions. They did so much out there. So again, so many community service hours there. Next sport, girls volleyball. We had 45 total participants. This was their first year in Division I. Coach Zabel has done an amazing job. When they started, they were just a few short years ago, they were Division III, and in a span of a short 5 years, they've already progressed up to Division I. So the great advancements that they've seen. Their 5-3 record isn't really indicative of what they did. They did have an all Division I, that should be all division right there. And their community service project was they hosted a breast cancer awareness tournament with local teams in Portsmouth High School. Our girls cross country team served with distinction with 14 members total. They were 3rd in the Metropolitan Division with a record of 10-2. They were 4th place in Class B. They qualified for the state championship and finished 10th in the state. And their community service project was they volunteered in local road races to raise funds for a variety of charities. And that was done at the Newport and the Jamestown Marathons this season. Boys cross country did the same thing for the community service project. They were 4th place in the Metropolitan Division. They finished with a record of 7-3. They qualified for the state championship and finished 13th out of 45 teams. And again, they had all state, all class division, and all academic recipients as well. Our recreation cheer, which we call it this season, and our PHS band were some of the only extras out there at football games. It provides so much to our community and what they do. And it's such a credit. Like, I would have officials stop me at DV and say, like, you're one of the few schools that come out and do this time and time again. And we put on great shows. So great kudos goes out to our band and to our recreational cheer for providing such a great atmosphere at our football games this past fall. Our girls tennis was one of the best teams in Division II, finishing 16-2. In the 2nd seed, advancing all the way to the semifinals. Again, they had an all-state athlete, and one athlete was served with distinction with a sportsmanship award for the division. Our community service project was they hosted a tournament that actually they benefited to the athletic department, and they've donated canned foods to a local food shelter. Girls soccer had 43 participants. They had a challenging year when they finished 2-13-1. but again, they had all division, all county, all academic. And one student did receive a special award, the Al Sullivan Perseverance Award. They did two community service projects this year. They did a breast cancer awareness pink out game, and they also volunteered at the Newport Marathon on behalf of the Boys Town group here in Portsmouth. Our boys soccer finished in 46, they had 46 participants. They had a record in Division I of 6, 5, and 6. They had all division, all academic, and 4 received all county awards. They advanced all the way to the quarterfinals. They had a thrilling game that came down to penalty kicks in the preliminary round to advance on to get us to the quarterfinals. And they participated in a PHS campus cleanup. So they picked a weekend that came out with the bags. I know Mr. Broder was very excited about that, for them coming out and cleaning up our grounds and helping out our staff. So that was great to see. At our middle school level, we had boys soccer, girls soccer, and our cross-country teams. Our boys soccer finished 8-3, advancing to the playoffs. Had 24 participants. Our girls soccer had 22 participants with a record of 4-7. Our cross-country team had 14 individual qualifiers for the state, which was great to see. We look forward for many of these student athletes advancing up to the high school level and in the years to come. Our winter season is just kicked off. And we started at the high school level last week, and at the middle school level, we started, 2 weeks ago. In our middle school, we started last week. And already off to fantastic starts. The sports that we're offering: boys and girls basketball, boys ice hockey. Girls ice hockey will be a co-op with 2 other communities in Barrington and Mount Hope. We have our boys indoor track, our girls indoor track, our gymnastics team. We have a competitive cheer, and we have boys and girls swim. For boys basketball, a couple of days ago, one of our student athletes, Benny Hurd, achieved 1,000 points in his career, which is a phenomenal distinction. That we were so excited to see him achieve that out of a away game at Middletown. We'll hopefully do something for him in-house during the season here. It was just it's a very exclusive group to be part of that. And our gymnastics coach was named the NFHS Gymnastics Coach of the Year. Last year, we just found out that news based on her achievements last year, and how much she does for that gymnastics community out there. And we'll hopefully bring her to a school committee meeting to be honored for all the work that she's done with that program. She's not only our coach, but she's also the sport director for the entire state. So she goes way above and beyond her requirements to coach, and she really gives back to our community. In terms of safety, as we enter this winter season, we know we're facing a lot of questions, and we are working with the different facilities that we have around. All athletes and coaches and officials must wear face coverings when inside any facility. The exception is swim and gymnastics when they're competing. That was the exception that they made. A little difficult to wear a mask in a pool. And then for gymnastics, it's such an exertion for such a short period of time that it's okay for them to take off their mask right when they're finished. They need to put their mask on. This includes before, during, and after all competitions. We are looking at the capacity limit based on the square footage in facilities and what they can do. You know what? There are a variety of different facilities that we utilize this time of year. The Newport County YMCA for our gymnastics team is currently under construction. So they are not having any spectators at this time. You know what? For the YM, so that's the YMCA, we're working with Portsmouth Abbey to come up with their limit that they want to see in that facility. And I'm working with both the principals here at the high school and the middle school to work for our facilities here on campus in terms of limiting and making sure we can social distance and we can do events safely here. As always, I always like to give thank yous. Thank you to our custodial staff, our coaches. We had a new athletic trainer this year, Josh King, come to us. He has fitted very well in terms of our help. Much thanks, as I think everybody needs to thank our school nurses for everything that they've done. It is a tremendous effort in terms of keeping our teams together, keeping our schools going. So much thanks to Kathleen Hickey. And I know we had Nan and Susan here as well for a good length of time. So we want to certainly send our thanks out for everything that they do on a daily basis. To our PHS administrative team, coming out to so many games and events and assisting in what we do out there, helping us maintain the order that we need to have at our events has been a tremendous help. Down at the middle school level, Mr. Aruda Tara McCarthy and Danielle Busey really go above and beyond in terms of making sure the middle school sports keep running and assisting us with that. Always, I got to thank my administrative assistant, Amy Burns, all the game workers, everybody that comes out to help at a game. It just takes so much of our community that we ask to go out there to put on events. It is a credit to that it's more than one or two people. It's a community that comes out to help support what we do out there. Also, special thanks to Roger Williams University. We needed to use lights on our tennis courts for a couple of our playoff matches because it went later on in the evening, and they allowed us to use their facility so we could use their lights out there, which was great. And then, as I said at the beginning, much thanks to Mr. Riley and Mr. Costa for putting on such a great broadcast. Again, opening up Portsmouth Athletics to so many other individuals out there. So we certainly want to thank them. I want to thank you. I know you got a busy evening, so I will conclude my remarks and say thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of our student athletes and our programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent report. Any questions before he sits down? Some applause? No, I think it was very thorough. Thank you.
Very good.
Getting a lot of information tonight. And this is one I've been looking forward to. The ESSER III presentation finally. So Dr. Viveros.
Viveros is going to lead that while she is setting up. Just as a reminder, we have had 3 iterations of the ESSER funds. This is the Elementary and Secondary Schools Relief Act, part of the American Rescue Plan as it pertains to K-12 schools. So we had an ESSER I version early on in the pandemic, ESSER II, which we've updated, you know how we're using those funds currently. And so the one that we've been waiting for and we finally have an application ready for is ESSER III. So Dr. Viveros is going to update us on that and also the results of a survey that we conducted to get some community feedback.
Thank you. So we certainly were waiting patiently for this to open. So this evening, I'm going to just walk you through the application process that we have with the ESSER III grant and the recommendations that we're going to be making as a district for funding based on the data that we have reviewed. So it's only a total of 3 slides, but there is a great deal of information to share with you on each of these. So Portsmouth's total ESSER III allocation from RIDE is just under $2 million. This past July, RIDE released a Learning Equity and Accelerated Pathways Task Force report to support districts as they developed a plan for the use of the ESSER II and ESSER III funding. This report, which is linked to the bottom of this slide, provides a detailed plan for addressing the needs that we are facing due to the impacts of COVID-19. A great emphasis is made and is placed on investing strategically in research-based practices that demonstrate the success in improving student outcomes. So this slide here provides you with an overview of the questions that the district is going to need to answer in narrative form as we're going through the application process. So first, RIDE wants us to ensure that we have consulted with all stakeholders, that we've reviewed our data as it relates to the impact COVID has had, and that we've identified the needs and goals based on this data. That between the ESSER II and III grants, we have a solid plan in place on how we plan on maximizing learning and supporting the social emotional needs of our students, and that we've identified district partners who can support us in those efforts. And the last 2 here are just questions focused on how the district may use COVID funding to support mitigation strategies and capital improvements due to COVID-19. So as a part of ensuring that we are providing our community with meaningful consultation on the ESSER III funding, we sent out a survey asking participants to select a priority level for 5 priorities that our district recognized through the internal data review that we've had in recommendations from that LEAP task force report. There were 279 total participants, and the results are as follows. So 136 participants selected intervention and learning supports as their first priority. 121 participants selected high-quality curriculum as their first priority. 60 participants selected capital improvements as their first priority. 54 participants selected professional learning, and 37 participants selected the option of a high school alternate learning academy as their first priority. Okay, so as a result of the survey and the conversations with schools and families and analysis of our district data, we're recommending to use our funds to support the following priorities. The purchase of a high-quality literacy curriculum. This would fulfill the district's RIDE requirement to have this implemented high-quality curriculum by the spring of 2023. In the area of intervention and learning supports, we're recommending the addition of 2 behavioral interventionists at the elementary level to support our youngest students with social emotional needs and transitions. The addition of a Tier 3 math interventionist and a Tier 3 literacy interventionist at the middle school. And at the high school, we're looking to hire 2 additional math interventionists with a focus on Algebra 1 and geometry intervention, and an additional literacy interventionist to support our Tier 3 students transitioning from middle to high school. And then finally, we're looking at updating the HVAC systems at the middle school and high school libraries. And in addition, we're also looking to continue our efforts with updating classroom seating at the middle school and high school to promote flexible seating and group work. That's all of it. So I'm open to any questions.
I got a bunch, but sorry. I have a bunch, so I'm gonna let the committee go first. They may ask them. Anybody? Not yet. Oh, I'll start. I'm sure other people will. Or did you have one, Mr. Adams? No. Okay, so we can use this funding over 2 years, right?
Yep, so it would be as soon as it gets approved, we can start using on the funding, and we have all throughout next year.
And it has to be used within 2 years. And when is the proposal due?
The proposal is due mid-January.
And when do they make the award?
As soon as they have, it really depends on the team that they have reviewing it. Any questions that they may have, they'll submit those questions to us. We may have to make revisions and then resubmit the applications.
Yeah, no, I first of all, I think I'm really glad we did the survey, and I think you guys have identified some really important things. Personally, I'm very pleased to see that curriculum piece in there, because that's a very expensive piece, and that will certainly help our budget as well. So it's kind of nice that that's getting picked up there. And is there any other curriculum that we could purchase? I mean, I see these as really one-time monies, and or is that just pretty much what you think we should do for curriculum?
Right now, we've gone through the process. We're really being very deliberate with our selection. So we start by having a couple of different publishers. We have teachers meet in on it. We pilot it. So right now, we're absolutely ready to move forward with an extensive ELA purchase.
And that's several $100,000.
Several. So,
Yeah. Over
$500,000.
I think one question which might come up from people who look at the budget with a critical eye is hiring people is always expensive, right? You know, and it's very needed right now to help with some of this learning loss, but these are not envisioned to be, or are these envisioned to be permanent positions, or do you see them really as temporary? We have the money, we can use it to really, you know, ramp up the skills, and then they go away.
That's a really great question. So there are, out of these 7 positions, I look at them and I say that for certain, there is a need at our middle school to have increasing our intervention. So when you're looking at our elementary schools, we have 3 interventionists at one elementary school, 2 in another, and that funnels into only 2 interventions at our middle school. Now we're seeing that the need due to COVID is extreme, but we will need additional supports at our middle school. I think as far as the behavioral interventionist at the elementary school, and then the targeted work that we want to do at our high school to, again, try to really work on closing this gap due to COVID. I think that those positions we're much more flexible with, and my hope is that we will not need them. But there is question in my mind as the need, for the continued need for the interventionist at the middle school.
So you see that maybe as something going
I do.
forward. One of the things that they mentioned quite extensively at some of the chairs meetings with the commissioner was summer school and extended summer school and extended programs. And was that part of the survey? I don't think we should plan a lot of that if parents are like, there's no way I'm going to send my kids, but was that something that we were looking at?
Yeah, that's another great question. So when we applied for the ESSER II grant, we actually placed a great deal of those funds into before and after school programming and summer program that we actually held this past summer. And we already have all of that money accounted for this coming summer. And then also for before and after school for the upcoming school year as well. So we have, I would say I'm feeling very confident that we have enough funds, especially since there's, staffing is difficult and having the students stay after school or come early and just the flexibility with families. We're doing a really nice job, but I just can't see it. I wish it could increase, but I just don't see that right now.
Okay. And then I just had one more question. Does any of that money have to go to non-public schools?
No.
That's all.
Come off the top already.
Oh, so we've already accounted for that.
So
'cause
this
they know we're gonna do
allocation
that.
is for us.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody else? No? Great, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I lost my agenda here. Hold on.
Minutes.
Oh, we're on approval of minutes, I've been told, but I just have to find the thing here. Okay, may I have a motion, please, for the approval of school committee member minutes from November 16th and November 16th executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have an approval, I have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? Any opposed, any
I
abstentions?
have to abstain from the executive session.
And one abstention from the exec. So the vote is 6-0 for the minutes approval, 5 in favor for the executive session, 0 against, and 1 abstention, please. Moving on to correspondence, I think I've already passed that down the table there, but I just wanted to say thank you to the Little Compton School Committee for the lovely sympathy card for Alan Shears, and that was very nice of you to make a memorial donation that the family requested. So thanks to the Little Compton School Committee on that. And then this came too, it's not on the agenda, but it's a Christmas card from Halfway School to the school committee. So, okay. Can I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, 6-0. Moving on to business. Item A, please. We need a motion.
I move for discussion of facilities capital plan next steps.
Second.
Dr. Kenworthy.
Chair, so this is a discuss only item. It's been a recurring agenda item for us as we're moving through the stages here. Now that we have our approved plan and bond approval, what I can report this evening, as I've mentioned at previous meetings, is the final piece that we are waiting for is approval from the K-12 Council on Education in Rhode Island. I just prior to this evening's meeting received confirmation that this will be on their agenda.
Oh, good.
And the meeting was actually moved up. It was supposed to be next week and it's going to take place on Thursday evening.
Oh,
We are told there is nothing to be concerned about. We don't need to be there. I will do my best on the short notice to see just in case, but I did verify, received a copy of the agenda. Everything is there. We have an action item coming up on the business agenda. Mr. Bureau will update us on our selection for an owner's project manager as we're going to move into this next phase. And the only other update that I would have is we'll probably have more information in the January meeting about reconstituting our building committee as we work through our phases. We had talked about as we're entering now, it's essentially phase 3. kind of reconstituting that committee and starting up regular meetings again.
Great, that's very positive that it's hopefully getting approved on Thursday.
Thursday night.
Yeah, fingers crossed, everybody. Now, next on the agenda, business B, discussion, action, PHS program of studies. May I have a motion, please?
I move for that. Discussion action of Portsmouth High School program of studies.
Second.
Thank you.
So this is an important part of just staying on schedule for the course selection process at Portsmouth High School. You annually approve the program of studies. You have that full document in your backup, and it's a brief presentation. Mr. Ammer on the high school administrative team right here this evening. So Mr. Ammer, whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Kenworthy. This is a dynamic process. In the last 6 years, I don't think we've ever had the same program of studies because we're constantly evolving and changing and try to modify and taking student interest in speaking to our teachers and talking with state officials for upcoming initiatives that are coming forth. And certainly the document that is presented to you tonight, it really is an organic process that works from the bottom up, with teachers recommend different courses, modifications, along with our department chairs who could be here this evening to speak to you about some of the work that they're doing and some of the changes that are going to hopefully continue to evolve over the course of next year. I want to say that I'm very proud of the work that our teachers did beginning in March of 2020. I think we're probably one of the few high schools in the state that continue to focus in on teaching and learning, much to the effort of the teachers who in our administration working so hard to try to make it fit to go to live instruction right away so that students can maintain their learning and teachers were able to access teaching online. I think that really is not understated when you look at some of the slides later on about our performance levels and why they are so high as compared to other schools, not only in the state, but nationally in various areas. So I'm really proud of that work, and it takes a team. I think we're really proud to be a part of a great team here at the high school that continuously focus on student learning and puts students at the center of what we do. Primarily, the first slide is about our beliefs about learning. It comes from our strategic plan. We hone in on this. We constantly focus on all the different steps, but clearly we want to make sure we're safe and supportive. Again, thank you for your support of the homecoming dance initiative. Unfortunately, I think we saw what could happen when things don't go right, and because of the school committee and central office support, we're able to provide a safe environment for students to make sure that they're safe. And ultimately, that's our first goal in everything that we do. And certainly, we want to make sure that everybody contributes their talents. Thank you for those of you who came to the play this year. It was really awesome. A lot of work went into that. And we really believe that students at the high school level have multiple intelligences that we want to make sure that they explore. Again, filling in within the program of study framework. That's some of the things that we do to make sure that happens. We speak to teaching and learning. It just says a really outstanding effort to make sure that happens. The work that the district is doing in terms of diversity and looking at making sure that everybody feels welcome is clearly something that we continue to do here at the high school. One of our professional development days, we invited a doctor from BCC who was able to speak to the teachers in terms of the stressors that's coming, that has because of COVID and the stresses on teaching and what it does, and to sort of like validate the anxiety that might be coming or they have relative to teaching and the stressors of working to get kids prepared for the next level. So we're really cognizant of that, and we continue to try to make that an emphasis. Authentic learning opportunities, we have continued slowly but surely in a safe manner, continue to give kids opportunities to bring in speakers. I think Dr. Kenworthy and Dr. Verse has seen an uptick in the number of visitors that we have to the school to be able to provide students authentic real life experiences. And also we've seen an opportunity for our teachers to go where it's safe to do so outside of the district to gather those meaningful experiences that the students can bring back to into their learning. What are the highlights? I mean, some of you know the highlights already. We're voted #1 school, not just high school, but #1 school in Newport County. There's a great deal of faith and belief. And I think it's justified about what we can do for students as a staff to try to support them to the next level. And we're very proud of that and take that very seriously. We're obviously, because of our numerics and providing so many different opportunities for students, we're ranked in the top 4 in Rhode Island. We're a leader in the graduation rates. I gotta give credit to our teachers, our department chairs particularly, who do a lot of work in ingenuity to make sure that students who maybe struggle a little bit with this COVID process were given opportunities to graduate. And I think we're graduating a student from last year next week. So we're not giving up on kids just because they aren't finished. We're never finished. We're always giving them an opportunity to get them to that next level, no matter how difficult it might be in their own lives. We're very proud that, and I'm sure that Dr. Zaveris is going to mention that we are the #1 school in the state in terms of science performance. In terms of high schools, we beat out all the other competition, and that speaks to the curriculum and the teachers and the hard work that our kids put in the science area. We have a very diverse and very strong science department, and they really have risen to the top. There's nowhere else to go but continue to improve, but they really have shown that in the state, if you are interested in science, this is the place to be. So we're very proud of that work. And of course, you know from our last meeting, our SAT score is on a rise. And all that doesn't happen on accident. It's purposeful and it's hard work on the part of our teachers, our department chairs, our administration, to make sure that we have cutting edge curriculum, cutting edge instruction, cutting edge materials to make sure that students have the best opportunity for success. As you can see on our next slide, gives you some perspective in terms of what's happening in our last 3 years in terms of our SAT performance. And the SAT is not just an English endeavor, it's an endeavor across all curriculum areas. We've been using our literacy coach to be able to integrate literacy techniques in all the curriculum areas, not just in English, but in social studies and science and other areas to improve access to better learning in the classroom. In terms of math proficiency, I think this is one that continues to impress because it's very difficult in the math field. It's even more difficult in the COVID arena to be able to improve our math scores because a lot of it is practice. And you don't have a student in front of you every day. It's very hard to make sure that they're doing their practice the way they should. And yet, our math department did an outstanding job, not only using all the resources, but during COVID era, being pioneers in the use of technology to ensure that students were getting the tools that they need. So a real shout out to our math teachers and our math students. Our PHS graduation rates, again, it's really high, not because it's given to students because they have to earn it, but we have caring and supportive teachers and administration that never give up on kids, not only during the school year, but beyond when they were supposed to graduate. And I want to thank them for their efforts. So at this point, I'd like to introduce in each particular area the department chair to come up and speak on the curriculum so that if there are questions or concerns, we can address them pretty quickly. And first, for our CT program, I know you had a large scale presentation. This is more of an overview. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Diane Priest, who is our CTE department chair. Diane.
As Mr. Evans said, I'm Diane Priest, CTE Department Chair in Fine Arts as well. The curriculum update that I'd like to share with you is that on Friday, the 10th of December, the CTE Board of Trustees announced that RIDE will now be accepting applications for new CTE programs beginning in January. If they're approved, which I'm certainly hoping they will be, we can begin implementing them during the 22-23 school year. So the new CTE programs that we're proposing for next year are the Academy for Biotechnology, which is incorporated into the Science Department, the Academy for Business and Finance, which will be incorporated into the Math and Computer Science Department, and the Academy for Criminal Justice, which is currently a locally approved pathway that's been developed by the Social Studies Department. The department chairs for each of the proposed CTE programs will be elaborating on the courses that they're going to be offering. And so during the 22-23 school year. Do you have any questions for me? Like I said, the department chairs will certainly provide you with a lot more of the coursework.
Maybe we'll let everybody go through and then maybe do questions at the end. How's that?
And then let me introduce then the next person was Danny Grice will be coming up to give you the update on English.
Hi, I'm Danny Grice. I teach English. We have two new English 12 options, so kids still have to take English 12 to graduate, but now there are 3 different courses that they can take instead of just the one traditional survey course. So we still have the survey course in world literature, and we now offer a comedy literature with writing for publication and a social justice literature with creative writing. And they are going really well. There are 2 sections of each of those courses, and we're hoping to increase that enrollment for next year's class. And I'm hoping to talk to Marilyn about the social justice being part of that pathway. We're also piloting new curriculum. We've chosen to purchase StudySync, one of the high quality curricula that is on the list. And so several of us are piloting that this year. We're working to do full implementation of that next year. I don't know who I'm introducing.
Joel.
Joel DeMarco.
Hi, good evening. I don't have any, not updating any new courses, but we do have some changes. If we did update a new course, I think our most popular elective might be fitness right now. So maybe a fitness 2 might be in the working for futures. But for right now, I just wanted to kind of address our mission statement. Our mission is to promote and foster the concepts of and skills needed to acquire and maintain a healthy lifestyle in a society that's becoming increasingly sedentary. Obviously, you know, a lot of with COVID, students are not moving around as much as we'd like. So we are kind of transitioning our curriculum as far as we're trying to get away from more of the larger team sports and more to small individual sports or smaller sports like pickleball, which has taken off really well here at the high school. Badminton, which has always been a big activity here. Tennis, which is increased. And then we've also been keeping up with our students' individual fitness by using the outdoor track and field. We're using the fitness center a lot throughout classes, and we've been doing fitness boot camps with our classes. We've also had the National Guard come in and run a fitness boot camp, as well as bring the rock wall here to the high school. So it gives the kids some hands-on activity with them. We've also, we've also started each class now with an individual fitness component, whether it's strength and endurance or cardiovascular endurance. Before each lesson starts, we take 15 minutes to run. It might be, you know, jump rope with push-ups. It could be jump rope with medicine ball. It could be doing squats with medicine balls or fitness plates. So we're really trying to get the individual fitness involved in there, because we feel like the bigger the units get and the more team-oriented the units are, it's less foot movement for the kids. And we want the kids to move around as much as possible, because we understand they're in front of computers all day. They're sitting down all day. We want them to get up. We want them to move around as much as possible. We are again back up and running with our certifying our 10th grade and our 12th grade to be Red Cross responders, first responders. We can't, I didn't get the link up there. Oh, what happened? I actually had a link where you could get in and somebody was doing first aid. So that's a really cool component, and I don't know if there's another school that's doing that. So our kids in 10th grade and 12th grade are actually learning to be first responders. They become first aid and CPR and AED certified, so they actually have a certification that they can take home with them. And they're a step above everybody else when they're looking for their summer jobs. They actually have something in their hand that kind of gives them a little bit a notch above everyone else. So it's really good. All the statistics show that on-site care is really important when there's an emergency. The statistics show that good quality first aid combined with AED saves lives at a tremendous rate. And for our CCA, our 10th grade and our 12th graders, they have to perform 4 cycles of CPR and also administer AED in less than 2 minutes, which would be a 80% chance of survival in a cardiac crisis. So
Wow.
that's pretty good. So all we can sleep easy that all our students are ready to save our lives. So that's just a good rubber meets the road kind of component that we're doing. And then for our students that are absent for extended periods of time, we have seen that, COVID cases going up, and we also we've had all our distance learning menus. We've updated them. So every week there's a different distance learning menu. Do we have the ability to click on that for 1 second? I know I'm going wrong here, but I think it's a pretty cool thing.
It says file you requested doesn't exist. So
It was when I clicked on it. I think that update I did. Sorry. But anyway, it's a whole fitness menu that kids can go through, and they cannot miss a day in school. So even if they're at home, they're getting graded. They're going through different fitness activities, and they're responding and to them, and they're getting graded for the class. So it's all good.
very good. We can all rest easy if we're shopping in Clements, because a lot of them are working at Clements.
To present the Library Media Services Program is going to be Mr. Brinsley, our freshman academy coordinator.
Good evening. It's always a little intimidating to stand in for Sarah Hunicky. Media specialist up in here. I'll do my best. So first thing she has listed is the 9th grade media literacy and research instruction. This is embedded in civics and English classes in the 9th grade. So she pushes into the classrooms. Oftentimes I call her at the library and she's not there, she's in class. So some of the topics that they go over in these grade levels are media addiction and social media, 2 very hot topics at the moment. Online marketing, big data, cybersecurity, maintaining and understanding your own digital footprint, and general privacy concerns. On-demand research and information literacy instruction. This is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. The department curriculum work, once again, she moves into the classrooms for all of this work where she integrates research and information literacy instruction in new curriculum that's being developed in the English department, and in social studies, embedding scaffolded media literacy skills at each level as curriculum is revised. There's a lot of curriculum work being done in English and social studies department. So she is able to move into both of those departments and help with all of that curriculum development and new course development as they go. I added this as a curation of the collection. She does a lot of work in maintaining the collection. It's an outstanding library collection, and she works very hard to curate that. So an example of that is the DEI page for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Crest has been a partner helping her with that, but you can go there and get all kinds of resources. And there's a bunch of other topics that she has curated over time. So it's an outstanding program that she does there. With that, I'll introduce Marilyn Thompson, the chair of the Social Studies Department.
Thank you.
Nice little segue actually into social studies, because a lot of people have been talking about curriculum development, and we are in the thick of it and are getting very positive about what's happening. So currently, the curriculum is, the new curriculum for social studies is in place from 8th through 10th grade. But next year, we are adding 11th grade, which is going to be modern world history.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking forward to the eventual inclusion of 6th and 7th grade. At this point, we believe that implementation will actually happen in the 23-24 school year. And of course, our long-term goal is to see complete K through 11 articulation with skills and literacy. So we're looking forward to working with the district on seeing that happen. In regards to curriculum building, a big emphasis for the new courses that are already in play. Mr. Grimsey had already mentioned work with Sarah Huneby in regards to embedding the digital literacy, which is so important. But we're also trying to open up the doors to work with English so that as we are aligning our skills vertically and horizontally, that we're also understanding what the expectations of English are so that we can all speak the same language, so that we can share best practices in terms of teaching them these literacy skills, and also in regards to assessing where they're at. I believe that the more that we can do that, I think the better off our students are going to be. So I was really excited to hear that English is embarking on this journey and that we are in the process of still building. So it's my hope and my vision that we can work very closely with English so that as they are creating this new curriculum, that we're right along with them so that what they're learning in their English classes can be reiterated in social studies, and again, using the same language and same strategies, because I think that's really going to help our students excel beyond what they're already excelling. So we're looking forward to that. In regards to our criminal justice pathway, that is going nice and strong. This is the first year of its implementation. We currently have 35 students that are enrolled, and we've started our Portsmouth Police Department Student Academy. We meet every Monday night, once a month, every Monday. And so far we've had 2 sessions, but we'll go through the entire school year. The Portsmouth Police Department has been absolutely amazing in opening their expertise and their doors to our students. We meet from 6 to 8 o'clock on Monday nights, and they're bringing in specialists every time that we meet that share their expertise with us and really get us out there. The last time that we were out there was pretty exciting. They were doing a felony stop. Officer Maddie Perry was in the car. She was the felon. And there were several police officers that were just reenacting the entire thing, showing us the maneuvers, the strategies involved, bringing in the law. It was just absolutely amazing. So kudos to Officer Perry as well. I want to mention her, our SRO. She has been absolutely instrumental in helping us to build these community connections. So thanks goes to her. We've had some amazing professionals. Today was one of those days. Today we had the FBI criminal profilist. She was in today to talk to our students about her very exciting and long career. We have had a special agent in Homeland Security that has come and spoken. We've got lawyers that have come in, and you name it. And we're in the process of really connecting with a lot of them to set up potential mentorships in the future. We know that that is the area that education is going, to get students, really hands-on. So it is just going incredibly strong. The kids are incredibly engaged. And I want to thank Mr. Amal and the administrative team for all of their support. Ms. Colin Claire as well. Thank you very much. She's been sitting in with us, and you'll notice at the very end, I'll wrap it up with saying this. I said CT opportunity for 23-24. Well, surprise, I just found out a little over a week ago that that was actually going to be occurring this current year because they opened it up. And criminal justice just was made into a priority sector. I think we all know, going down the streets, we see huge banners that we've probably never seen in our entire lifetime saying police officers wanted. The recruiting is obviously been very difficult. So we were excited to hear about that opportunity, and Ms. Claire has been right there to let us know every step of the way. She will be there to assist us as we embark on putting in an application for it to be seen as a CTE. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. didn't have to go back to high school. It's a lot more interesting now.
Director for Teaching and Learning, will be speaking on behalf of the department.
To take over and stand in for Mr. Rose doing this instead of what he is doing, which is home taking care of a sick child. So I'm here just to fill you in on where we stand. This slide is actually a little bit out of date, so I can give you some of the updates there. In the math department, they have fully implemented a green lit, highly effective, highly rated curriculum as per ed reports in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. I think the original plan was to pilot for Algebra 2, but they were so pleased with the outcomes and the quality of the curriculum for Algebra 1 and Geometry that they've actually moved forward with a full purchase, and they will continue a full implementation in 22 and 23. As Ms. Crease mentioned as part of the CTE presentation, Mr. Rose is looking to explore a couple of pathway options, including a business leadership and entrepreneurship course, which is pending approval, and an intro to computer and data science course, which Mr. Rose took a class this summer to get certified in himself to be able to teach. We are also looking, as Dr. Viveros referenced in the ESSER presentation, hoping to introduce, in order to support students, particularly those impacted by COVID learning loss, introducing a tier 2 Algebra 1 and Geometry that would utilize interventionists to provide extra support to students to help them get ramped up in any skills they may need, because we know a couple of things. One is that most four-year colleges expect that students graduate with Algebra 2. And right now we have students in a place where they really need their Algebra 1 and Geometry skills shored up before they are ready to take Algebra 2. And so on the next slide, you'll see sort of the vision going forward, looking long-term. That bottom row there is being phased out. You'll notice that's the only one that does not include Algebra 2 as part of the pathway. So some of the courses that have been proposed, including a topics in mathematics course, would be introduced in order to provide a support for students who might be struggling with skills from Algebra 1 and Geometry before they're ready for Algebra 2. But we also know that eventually coming down the pipeline, it sounds like Algebra 2 is going to become a graduation requirement for all high schools. And so Mr. Rose has done a lot of work, a lot of research, looking at other high-performing schools in the state to compare their math programs with our math program. And this is his vision for next year.
You may not know the answer, but if you don't take honors the first year, you can still get into the honors classes in other years, right?
Yes, then that would be based on teacher recommendation.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Next person up is Mr. Smith. Ask him how many languages he speaks.
A little Australian. A little English. Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of Mrs. Hogan, who extends her regrets she cannot be here this evening, on behalf of the Modern World Languages Department. So our update starts with French. We conducted an after-school enrichment course at both PMS and Wilbur McMahon last year, which has helped promote the French studies pathways at PHS. The result is a full French 1 class this past fall. There are plans to continue the after-school enrichment class starting this January, and upper level class enrollments are being stable once students begin their first year of studies. So that's really, once they're engaged, once we get them enrolled, they're really sticking with it. It's a great credit to our teachers. Portuguese enrollments remain consistent, again, once they reach PHS, and I think Mrs. Hogan has continued to explore all efforts to continue to promote all courses in the Portuguese field of study. Our Spanish courses continue to be robust in their enrollments. Special note goes to Spanish 5. We've had a class in Spanish 5 for the last 2 years. And we'll be continuing to work to promote and encourage students to take AP Spanish for 22-23. Our upcoming curriculum work and professional development under the auspices of the ACTFL, which is the American Council for the Teaching of Foreign Language, and the workshops they offer. There's some listed below: curriculum instruction, purposeful planning to increase student learning, and unit and lesson design focusing on literacy. And as always, Mrs. Hogan is continue to work on curriculum design with their teachers in each foreign language area. So that concludes the modern world language update. So arrivederci. Sayonara. I don't know. But it is my pleasure to introduce, I believe it's Nicole Noble, to give an update on our science.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so for science, we just have a few very small program updates for the program of studies. For advanced placement physics, we had to make an update to the program of studies to reflect recent changes that came down from College Board. There was a slight reduction in the units for the AP Physics 1 program. So that's just a minor change to the program of studies. For one of our elective courses that was approved actually last year and is going very, very well this year, we have, I believe, 70 some odd students taking the course this year, space and ocean science. We are going to change it to have a prerequisite that the students need to have completed Algebra 1 successfully in order to take the course. It is a heavily physics-based course, and we've just noticed that there is a need for that math background before they take this elective course. We would recommend that. And then the exciting new courses on our proposed program of studies fall into the Academy of Biotechnology. So what we're proposing is to go ahead and start for next school year 2 of the courses that would fall into the Academy of Biotechnology. The first course would be Biotechnology Foundations. It's the first required course in the sequence. We would offer that to students in either grade 9 or 10. And the focus in that is the introductory biology skills that they would need to enter that biotech pathway, with a high focus on lab skills and safety. Once they've completed that course, they would be qualified to move into the Issues in Biotechnology course, which is the second in the sequence. Now, Issues in Biotechnology, we do have a teacher in our department that has been certified through URI to provide EEP concurrent enrollment credit for this Issues course, which is more of a exploration course into case studies and issues in ethics. So it's not as heavily lab-based. But the students would qualify for college credit for that course. Now for next school year, because no students in grade 9 or 10 will have taken the foundations course yet, we're only going to offer that to grade 11 and 12 students. And then that would change in the following year once some kids have come through the pathway. Do you have any questions?
So are you, I guess I do have a question on this new pathway though. Are you able to teach all of the courses that would fall under, I'm just trying to get the name here, Academy for Biotechnology with the staff you have?
I believe so for next year. I believe based on our enrollment predictions, and Mr. Emerald might be able to speak to that better than me, but I do believe for next school year, we're only planning to offer 1 section in each of the courses. And there is only 1 staff member that is certified to teach the Issues in Biotechnology. So that would be a primary focus when we put together her schedule. That she would have a place for that. I actually will personally teach the Biotechnology Foundations course that I've been working on developing over the past few months.
There'll be a natural process that'll play out through the course selection process when students choose courses. Obviously, if we have students gravitating toward a new course, that means it's probably enrollment dropping in other areas, and we have to make those adjustments.
And I'm excited to be able to offer another science elective to the lower grades, because currently most of our science electives, really students can only come into as they proceed through the upper grade levels, with the exception of our new course, the Space and Ocean Science. And so this gives us another opportunity for the younger students that want to take an elective science.
Thank you.
So a lot of great information there. Just a reminder, the action item is the approval of the actual program of studies. The presentation, all that great information was to provide you the background information on that. If you have any additional questions for Mr. Emerald or anyone.
Any questions, anybody? That is a lot. Not seeing any from from the other end of the table? Or a little comment? No? I think just reflection of how much work everybody's been doing to get all this put together. It looks really, really impressive.
I think some of the work is because we want to make sure that we are, again, cutting edge, comprehensive, and in tune with trying to make our learning more realistic to what the needs are in the community, hence the increase in CTEs. Some of the work that we're doing to improve the pathways. Also, in terms of student interest, the state's oceanography course this year is one of those odd even courses where if we ran it just every year, we might not get enough students, but because we run it every other year, the students have 2 shots in their high school career to get access to those courses. Those are some of the strategies that we've employed to offer a variety of courses that will keep the student interest up. And in some cases, students are taking multiple, more than the minimum number of course requirements. But one of the things that I do think that, I don't know if Dr. Kenworthy has mentioned to you, that the graduation requirements are being debated up at the Rhode Department of Education level, the other requirement levels. We are well positioned to be at where we need to be, probably 80% of the way already there. But there will be some open debate, open comment about the graduation requirements statewide in the spring. And if that is adopted, that there might be some revisions, minor revisions that need to be made to make sure that we are in line with the incoming freshman class will be required to make those, take those courses.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that overview and the time it takes to come out to a meeting at night. We appreciate it. Can I have a motion, please? Where is it? Are we going to approve?
Yeah, you are, this is an action, you would be approving the program of studies document, which includes all of the changes that were represented in the presentation.
What he said.
I move for approval of the Portsmouth High School program of study.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, 6-0. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing it implemented. All right, moving on to business C, please.
I move a discussion and action of the award of preliminary owner's project manager services contract.
Second.
Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Guerra, who will update us on a recommendation that we have for an owner's project manager for the next phase of our.
Okay.
It'll adjust as you speak, if you just start.
Okay. So yes, as we've just completed our stage 2 application, we're moving into our stage 3 and 4, which is really our planning and construction phases. We're required to have an owner's project manager by the school building authority, but it's also best practice. We issued an RFP in mid-November, and we had 6 firms send us proposals for our OPM services. We had an evaluation committee consisting of Dr. Copeland, Dr. Kenworthy, myself. We had Keith Hamilton, Rich Rayner, and Lisa Lasky from the town on the committee as well. And we evaluated all 6 of the proposals, and the committee felt that Peregrine Group was the most qualified proposer. Just to let you know, that's also the firm that did the OPM services for both East Providence High School and the Barrington Middle School, and had excellent references. This was a qualifications-based process for selecting the OPM, so we did not request any fee proposals. We will be negotiating a fee proposal, but that will take some time, as Peregrine will need to understand in really detailed ways all of our projects and the timing and the scopes. So in the meantime, because time is of the essence, and we do not want to stop work on our stage 3, asking you tonight to approve a 2-month, what I call a bridge contract, will allow us to start working as we also negotiate a broader multi-year fee for the work. And the proposal, you should have Peregrine's proposal and the contract in your backup. So I'm asking you to approve the contract tonight through February 28th for $7,500, plus up to $500 worth of reimbursable expenses.
Any questions? I have to say, having looked at the proposals, I think it was a pretty clear choice. So I would be voting in favor of this. All right, hearing no further comment, calling the vote, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 6-0. Thank you for keeping this moving along. Okay, we have a motion for business D, please.
I move for discussion and action on the contract and revised job description for deputy superintendent, formerly assistant superintendent.
Second, sorry.
Thank you.
Getting into it.
Dr. Kenworthy.
Madam Chair, so this evening I am asking you to approve a revised job description and contract for what will become known as our deputy superintendent. This will be replacing the current position of assistant superintendent. However, it will still be Dr. Faveros. We're not replacing her. This conversation, as you may recall, has been ongoing for the last several school years. So with a lot of other things happening during the 2020-21 school year, we also had a reorganization of responsibilities in central office, and part of that, as you know, Mr. Diarra did step to a reduced role so that we could maintain his stewardship of our finances. But with that came some other responsibilities that needed to be divvied up. And something that became obvious through the year is that Dr. Viveros is doing much more than she was originally hired for. So we have a revised job description that we worked on through Personnel Subcommittee. And in doing that, it also, one of the things that became obvious there was the title more reflected what we see. It's a common title in Massachusetts where the role extends much further beyond teaching and learning, as has been the case here for the past at least two people who've had the role. I know, having served in it before Dr. Viveros. So that would then lead to the new contract, which you also have. So again, both of those have been approved unanimously by the Personnel Subcommittee and reviewed by our Legal, Finance, and Human Resources Department for some other changes that resulted in the documents you have in front of you this evening.
Any questions? No? All right, hearing no questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? I think that's 6 enthusiastic ayes. Any noes? Nope. All right, 6-0 approved. Thank you, and we welcome you for 3 more years. Okay. Moving on to, oops, darn, just lost my agenda again.
I move for discussion and action of the community member agenda request for the Portsmouth School Committee to end all financial, organizational, and training relationships with the Rhode Island Association of School Committees.
Second for discussion. This agenda item was submitted by Mr. Fitzmaurice, so we'll let him have the initial discussion and background. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
I'm Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. As you say, I submitted this agenda item for the school committee's attention. This proposal is, some eyes, I guess, a little extreme, but I think it is an extreme situation. It began with the October 4th letter from the U.S. Attorney General regarding what he perceived to be disorder at the school committees of our nation. That wouldn't have been enough to get me here, but it was followed the next day by a letter from the Rhode Island Association of School Committees under the signature, over the signature of Mr. Tim Duffy. So that letter was in support of that U.S. Attorney General's letter. And it was a discussion of the disruption of school districts and school boards in the United States, but writ small for Rhode Island. And in that letter, Mr. Duffy requested that all the committees talking about all the committees in the state that are part of the association, to requested information from all those committees on any disruptive citizens in order that they may pass that information on to the U.S. Attorney for the state of Rhode Island and the local FBI offices. That is a clear effort for intimidation. I don't think anybody in their right mind would think it was anything else. There hasn't been, in very many instances in the nation, let alone in Rhode Island, of disruption of the school committees. Some have been quoted to me privately, and I've investigated those and found them to be false. So in any case, that's why I'm here. And while the school committee, we in the Portsmouth Concerned Citizens don't dispute that the school committee has the authority to maintain good order in their meetings. That's a matter for local law, state law, and local police. It is not a matter for the federal government, which has no jurisdiction here. They're assuming jurisdiction, as they have in many other areas of this country in recent years. But in any case, they don't really have an authority there. But that's the way it should be handled. And when we start bringing federal people in to deal with people that the school committee may consider disruptive, then you could pretty well count on people stopping any address whatsoever to this committee. With possible exception of myself. So, yeah, this is a path we've started off already in this committee with the use of police and attending our meetings. That's a disruptive effect on the people's ability to speak to you. Now, again, most people don't interpret that to be anything other than you need to keep quiet. And that's what this is, a escalation of. And that's what our concern is. And this association is paid for, I presume, by the town funds from the very people that you, or not you, but this association of Rhode Island State school committees, is aimed right at the people who are paying the bill. We citizens are paying probably all of the revenue that comes to you, either directly or indirectly, but directly we're paying roughly, I guess maybe it's close to 90% of it at this point, but maybe a little bit less than that. But it's roughly 2/3 the budget of the town of Portsmouth at $66 million. And I've asked what the association fees for the town of Portsmouth, the school committee of Portsmouth, for this association is. I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming it's significant. Does anybody know what it is?
$5,486. So the request is, the agenda item is to disassociate with, to end the relationship with RIASC. We want to respect and put items on the agenda if they're of concern to the community. Does anybody on the committee wish to respond? Mr. Ferber?
I have 2 points regarding your comments about disruption. You were at the meeting where we had a significant number of people who attended who were opposed to our masking policy, which is determined by at the time, it wasn't determined by the state, but the governor established the mask mandate. I considered those people extremely disruptive, and I considered them intimidating as well. They were intimidating to the opponents of discussion on that. We, as you well know, because you probably have best attendance of anybody in town at all meetings. And in my experience, the town council and ourselves welcome everybody, regardless of their viewpoints. So I really disagree with you completely on that subject. But as for the membership of the NSBA, both Emily and myself have attended most of the meetings. They have a monthly chairs meeting, And I was a member of the executive committee on RIASC, and I found all of the meetings to be extremely useful. Often I thought the topic was going to be boring, and I'd show up and invariably the subject matter was far more interesting than I anticipated. And I learned a lot, and I'm sure our chairperson learned a lot. And we also share that information when we return to the school committee so that we can advise them what we've discussed. So I find the membership in the Rhode Island chapter of NSBA to be extremely beneficial. And I think the $5,400 and some is extremely reasonable for what we get out of it. We're required by state law, all of us, each member of the school committee, to have 6 hours of education. And that's the principal way that we obtain it, through the meetings that are held by the NSBA. And the subject matter is especially useful to the newer members of school committees, because they have, in fact, our attorney has taught a course in School Committee 101, which I think that was almost an all-day session. So I'm personally extremely in favor of it. And plus, I was the treasurer on the executive committee. I was the treasurer for 2 years, and was to be appointed I would be the vice president this year and presumably president next year if I'd stayed, but I didn't have time for the committee, so I personally resigned. Or I resigned from that position, and that was the only way I could stay on the committee, because I'd already exceeded my term limit as a regular member. So that's my opinion.
Well, let me.
Wait a minute, let me just go ahead. Mr. Payer?
I have no problem if Mr. Fitzmaurice wants a response.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Let me address the remarks, that meeting of reference. And what we were in here doing is talking about the mask business. And we didn't, in the PCC, say anything about it. We objected to the use of police, but other than that, we had nothing to say about the mask business. There was other people who were here to talk about that. We were concerned about the level of tension in the room, but the committee was imposing on the citizens of this town something that they didn't agree with. And the idea that you can do that and have no one object and come in here with a crossword with you is a little bit unreasonable. Now, I recognize the school committee rarely gets involved in these sorts of meetings. Council sees more of it than you do. But if you're going to adopt unpopular positions, you can expect people to come in here and talk to you about it. And I don't think that's unreasonable. And when you start,
I don't think we think it's unreasonable either. And we listened to everybody for over 2 to 3 hours. So please do not misconstrue the meeting. I think people's emotions were high, but everybody was pretty respectful. We listened. But if you have looked at the paper, there were a lot of other meetings which had to be shut down and people were moved. And that was the advice that we were getting, which was it made sense just to have it there. So we don't have police at our meetings regularly. And I really don't enjoy having a mountain made out of a molehill, because I don't think it's a mountain.
Well, I don't object to the idea that you were having a lot of people in here, and obviously a lot of them had a lot to say. I think you gave them a full and clear opportunity to speak. I don't object to that.
Thank you.
I think you did a good job there. But that's not the point here. The point tonight is whether or not the people would consider the use of the FBI and the U.S. Attorney based on your reports to an organization that's a private organization, not a public one, and that they turn around and pass that information on to the federal authorities when you can't even see it as an individual. You know, the normal process is you make a complaint to the police, it's a public document. The individual can face their accuser. In this process, the way it's set up, you can't.
So
there's no ability to
I
face
think
the
we
accuser.
can, I think we can assure everybody that Portsmouth has not passed on any information to the Attorney General of any citizen or anything like that. Now, again, there is a letter, there was a response. I asked him, Duffy, about it, and he said he followed up based on the letter to see, are they doing that in Rhode Island? You know, probably, again, I think I can see why people would raise eyebrows at that, but Portsmouth is not passing on any information. And I think the bigger question here, and I'll let Mr. Payero speak first, is weighing the benefits and the disadvantages of belonging to RIASC. Mr. Payero, I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Do you want to say anything else before Mr. Payero talks?
I'll let him speak.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to echo a lot of the sentiments that Fred made because it's spot on. RIASC is a nonprofit organization to begin with. It's a membership organization. And at the same time, what it was happening, and I'm not going to go as far as what happened at the National School Board Association, that's a whole different story. But in this case, it was a membership organization clearly looking out for its membership and asking for guidance on a situation that may occur. There's no way sense in what you presented to us as evidence and in saying that we are being strong-armed to provide any information. So being able to do that, well, please allow me to finish. Secondly, to wholeheartedly say that given, and I'm going to preface it, but I don't and cannot speak to your ability as a private investigator. And it's obvious and evident that things had been happening this summer. It boiled up. It happened in many communities here in our own state. If we're going to use analogies about the situation at hand, the fact that it's, hey, all the information we provide would be public. My kids saw that information too. And if you're going to tell me that, hey, we're not going to be able to just have a civil discourse, that having a police officer, just in case something happens, worse comes to worse as a precautionary measure, is the worst thing happening, then please explain to my 7-year-old that has to hold his breath when his dad comes to a school committee meeting.
Okay, so.
Okay, let me respond to this. I didn't say that the school committee of the town of Portsmouth was passing any information on to the national groups involved or to the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. I'm here to ask you to break this arrangement with them, this process. And they may or may not be doing good things, but this tramping on freedom of speech, that's what this is. It's an intimidation to suppress freedom of speech in all of the school committees in which belong to this association in Rhode Island. I don't think there's any question about it. And if you think that it's irresponsible or unreasonable for me to come here and talk about it, then, you know, that's going to have to be on you.
Obviously, we don't think it's unreasonable because we put it on the agenda. So again, my
understanding that I have a right to request.
Definitely, but the way it works is you have a right to request, but we don't have to put it on the agenda. We have to explain why we would not put it on the agenda. But
then we'll have another discussion about that.
But the point here is that we're not going to deny discussing hard issues. I think it's better to discuss issues, get them out in public, have it in open, and that's exactly what we're doing. So the request before us is to remove ourselves from the membership from RIASC. And while I think some of the concerns you've raised are worthy of noting, I would point out that it costs us $5,400. We get all of our community, we get all of our professional development. Mr. Duro, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we get discounted electricity rates through RIASC.
We participate in their electric and sometimes their gas contract. They have a prepaid contract.
So we get some financial benefits there. They also have a database of contracts, which we use a lot when negotiating and considering salaries, which is a very useful tool for us. And then they have monthly meetings in addition to the professional development that kind of helps, gives us access to the commissioner and ability to ask questions. I hear the concern. I still personally feel like the benefits of the organization outweigh the costs, from my opinion. Anybody else?
Oh,
Mr. Vadney. Mr. Vadney. All right.
So first of all, Tim Duffy, RIASC, they're a special interest group. They don't represent parents, they represent the school committees. So it's logical that he would put the school committee's interest first. That's his job, that's what he gets paid for. And the idea, and what he did is he gets a request from the national organization to provide information, and he complies with that request. And he's thinking he's doing it in terms of he's representing his membership, the interests of the members. And I mean, if you want to, be paranoid about it, you can say, oh, he's trying to intimidate us. No, he's not. He didn't. That wasn't really a public document. He sent it to, it's a public document in the sense that he sent it to a public organization, the Portsmouth School Department. But it wasn't really meant for public consumption. If it was, he would have had it printed in the Providence Journal. So that's very obviously not his motive. And regarding the police presence, no one in the room seemed to be very intimidated by the police. Everyone was jumping up at the mic. No one was holding back. We had an East Providence police officer who was here, who was, he didn't seem to be impressed by our own police. He said what he wanted to say. I thought everyone said what they wanted to say. I think the only people intimidated in the room would be the people who were for the mask. Some came up, most of them did. But then again, that's up to them because some of these things can get a little rambunctious. But I think as far as RIASC goes, I think he was just doing his job. I don't think he was thinking, well, I'm going to send out this message to the school departments because I'm going to intimidate the parents. He's soliciting information that he was asked to solicit. And as far as the FBI goes, I agree that in local disorderly issues, they don't get involved, but they do get involved with terroristic threats. And we have one guy stand up at the end of the meeting saying that, quote, when the school committee ends, when the school committee's ended, and I think when you make threats against multiple individuals or organizations, you can argue that's a terroristic threat. Now, we didn't report the guy because he wasn't a credible threat. That was very obvious. Check him out. He's just a blowhard. And so I think we've been very reasonable. We're not very sensitive to these type of attempts at intimidation that the audience is obviously trying to push us in their direction. And so again, I just see a guy in the form of Tim Duffy just doing what he sees as his job. He was asked to collect information. Is this a problem in Rhode Island? That's what NSBA wanted to know. And he collected his data, sent it up to the national organization. And as far as RIASC itself, personally, I think it's worth the membership, just for the professional development, let alone all the other fringe benefits like discounts on electricity.
Mr. Ferber?
I'd like to respond to Mr. Vadney.
Okay,
and I'll do so briefly, but I am going to respond.
My comments quick.
We'll let you have last comment, Fred, and then we'll
A letter
vote.
written to
Go ahead.
the Attorney General of the United States for the National School Board Association did reference terrorism. And they later repudiated that part and took it out. So nothing we're doing involved terrorism. It's the wrong word. And the other side of the comments that have been made tonight, both Mr. Vadney and Dr. Copeland, to the effect that the school committee not sent any complaints on. I agree with great pleasure. I think that's the point. I would hope that we won't see any of that in the future.
All right, Mr. Ferber, last comment to you.
Things, the dues for participation in RIASC have not increased. I've been on the school committee for 9+ years, And those dues haven't gone up the entire 9+ years. And part of the reason is because of the collaboration with regard to the energy savings, which benefits each of the towns and cities that participate in RIAS. But the other thing is, you were here at that meeting where the anti-maskers were present, and I feel rude, disorderly, disruptive. And the very last speaker literally threatened us. And I considered it a threat that needed to be reported to the police, and I did so. And the Merrick Garland request was based on similar experiences at other school boards throughout the country where members of the boards were threatened. There were videotapes on the news of board members, I think it was in Tennessee, being accosted in the parking lot saying, "We know where you live," and so forth. So that's how Merrick Garland got involved. It's a what do you call it? There's a law against
this case precedent.
What's it? I'm sorry?
There's case precedent on it.
I can't think of it. But you can't intimidate a public official in that manner.
I understand that, and I've been at an East Providence school committee meeting in which the police were aggressively used against the people there. So I've been on the other side of this from you. And also I've been in council meetings when I've been threatened by members of government, in other words, elected officials. And so it goes on in this town a little bit from the other side. And you people in the elected seats should remember that citizens get yelled at from time to time too.
Okay.
If you don't think so, I can write a list for you. But I'm satisfied with this discussion tonight. I don't want to bring it on any further. But I do want to say that this is a matter of freedom of speech, not whether or not the Association of School Committees is doing a good job. In this particular case, as soon as Mr. Tim Duffy sends you this letter, he stepped over the border. You should know that. You're elected officials and you're bound by your oath to the Constitution. You should remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so back to the item here. We have a motion to end all financial, organizational, and training relationships with Rhode Island Association of School Committees. All those in favor of ending the relationship, please raise your hand or say aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? 6-0 voted down. We will remain in RIAS. All right, moving on to business item F. May I have a motion, please, Ms. McDade?
I move to discussion and action of policy ADFA, which is the Coordinated School Health Program.
May I have a
Second.
Mr. Payero, Mr. Payero seconded. Ms. McDade?
This is the infamous health and wellness policy. This is our final read on this one. It's been around for quite a while, and there haven't been any changes since the last meeting.
I always get confused on these. We do have to vote for this one now?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
okay. So I'm ready to call the vote on this. Okay, all those in favor? All those in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 6-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to November financials. Mr. Giro.
So you have the November financials. We're almost halfway through the year. There's really nothing of note to mention. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I looked through it, so I'm hearing no questions. We accept a report. Thank you very much. We do not need to adjourn to executive session. I'd just like to point out that this is our only meeting in December. Wish everybody a happy holidays coming up here. I'm sure there's one. And our next meeting will be January 18th at the town hall. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous 6-0. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Thank you to the high school staff for coming. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Chris, I just had one. I One or two?
This is one in Canada, right?
No.
That one? Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, wow.
but the reason I'm showing it to you,
Happy holidays, everyone.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
it's actually, it's way from Heritage.